Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a throwaway account in the advice subreddit. The post is titled, "My father has somehow found me after disowning me." I'll give a very brief description of why this matters so much to me. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me, and after I found out and confronted her about it, she got scared and told nearly everybody we knew that I had raped her to cover up her cheating. I was placed in custody during the investigation. However, I was released as there was no evidence. My parents had already disowned me, and most of my friends had distanced themselves from me. I wasn't even proven innocent by a jury, so my parents still believed me to be a rapist who had gotten lucky. My best friend began to help me behind their backs, and I ran away. I had nothing to lose as nobody liked or even approached me, and my college barred me from attending lessons, only emailing me the work and bringing me in for exams. I went as far away from that town as I could and got an apartment after working in some community jobs for money and managed to sort of stabilize myself. I decided to change my name after a while because I came to hate looking at it for some reason. I still don't know why. This helped me start a new slate, and I made a few new friends when I went to uni. Again, I don't know why I did this. I'm still in truckloads of debt and was incredibly poor looking back. I finished my degree in teaching and moved far away to a country on the opposite side of the globe where I live now. I got a nice apartment and settled down in my new job. I eventually met a girl who turned out to become my now wife. I originally couldn't trust her, and after realizing how much patience she had with me, I fell head over heels for her. I would flinch if she tried to touch me, or I'd start fidgeting when she'd get close. She eventually gave birth to my twin daughter and son, whom I adore and will defend to the edge of the universe. Her family got used to me very quickly, considering I was a foreigner and not very trusted. They treated me well, and I sort of remembered how a loving family actually is. Now I'm living in a nice house with both of my children and wife, and we're very happy. That is, until last night when I was playing on our PlayStation with my son while my wife and daughter were in the garden. There's a knock on the door, and lo and behold, my father is there. He smiled weakly and began to speak, but I slammed the door so hard I scared my son. I took him to his room and called for my wife to take my daughter to her bed. She was freaking out, and so was I. My father kept knocking on the door, and I just broke down in the moment. My wife comforted me, then answered the door for me. She asked who he was, and he said he was my father. I had given my wife a vague background of me, and she had nothing but sorrow for me. She looked pissed, understandably, and began to scream at my father for abandoning me and whatnot. After she calmed down, I told her to let him in and for her to go to our kids' bedroom and keep them busy while I talked to my dad. He said that he was doing my ex-girlfriend a favor by clearing some stuff on her phone. And while he was clearing out some messages, he saw a conversation between her and the guy she was cheating on me with, basically expressing the guilt for ruining my life and that she wanted to take it all back. My father didn't confront her as he wasn't ready to bring back a dead situation, but silently began to hunt for me to tell me that he believed me. I don't even know how he found me, but I don't care because he's here. Now, for the part I need help on. I don't know what to do. I've considered my options alone after walking through some random streets, and I've come to some conclusions, but I'm not sure what the best decision is. 1. Turn him away and tell him to go back to our country and leave me alone. 2. Reconcile with him and tell my mother. If there is a better option which you have, then please let me know. I'm stressing out hard here and am planning to take the day off work tomorrow. My father is in an apartment nearby, so I'll probably go to him with my answer. Thanks in advance. This is like the third or fourth time I've covered a false essay story, and each time when I hear about family and friends abandoning the alleged culprit, I think to myself, do these parents not know who their child really is? To be clear, I obviously take these kinds of accusations seriously, but I'm just trying to look at it from a point where one of my closest family members is in the same shoes. I cannot see anybody in my family doing such a wild thing. So until I see definitive proof, I'm going to give my family the benefit of the doubt. That's what they've earned by spending years and years by my side. Now, if proof came out to support the allegations, then we can start turning on them. But in all of the stories I've covered, these parents instantly flip out on their kids. So personally, I say fuck the dad and fuck the ex, and I hope they live miserable existences for the rest of their days. When I heard the line about how the ex felt bad about what she did, that just pissed me off. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I just know that lawsuits for defamation or something after being falsely accused of rape are tough to win. Or at least I rarely ever hear of justice being served, but I want to see that woman go to jail. User Random Questioner said, "This was really brutal to hear. People who make false allegations should be sued and jailed. It ruins people's lives. This was absolutely ridiculous. The best advice I can give is to keep him out of your life. He was so willing to dump you so fast without even spending enough time to talk it out with you. Not to mention you're already happy with the life you have without them. Of course, you can choose to forgive whoever you want, but I wonder what his motive to try to reconcile was. Best of luck. Thanks for sharing your story." Under this comment, OP said the following: "Thank you. I would like to go down the I for an I route and just not let him go near my family. I'm not the most forgiving person in retrospect. He has to live with the consequences of his actions." User Wowie said, "I would not trust him, not even a little bit. He was still in contact with your ex who ruined your life, and when he found evidence of your innocence, instead of telling everyone and telling her off, he decided to go find you. Screw that. Tell him to go home and to send you proof he has outed her to everyone, and then and only then will you speak to him." User Ballistic Pineapple said, "This is the first time I've ever responded here, so I can't say this is good advice at all because this is really only something you can answer. This is so much all at once that was thrust upon you. I think having your father go back home will be good, giving you time to fully decompress and understand what is happening. You can always reach out to him if you are ever ready to, but having this situation forced on you is not the best. This is something that you can have control over. This is your life now, and you get to say how you want the situation to be handled. So you should think about what would give you the most control to process this information and formulate a plan. You do this at your own speed and take as much time as you need." User Test said, "I am so sorry this happened to you. Frankly, the cheater who did this should experience what you did. I am happy for you that things worked out so well for you. I am a little shocked that your father and mother did not at least listen to you. A lot of parents can have children who commit murder and not believe it. They should have at least given you the opportunity to speak. You do not have to make up your mind right away. You can tell them you need to take your time with this. Your dad can go home and you can mull it over. It is also okay to tell him you are angry with him. Take care of yourself." 2 days later, OP provided an update. "I'm sorry that I haven't said anything recently, but I came to the decision that I would not reconcile with my father. I simply couldn't find it in myself to forgive him. Some of you might want a story, so here is how it went down the day after I made the post. I visited my father in his hotel and I told him that I wouldn't reconcile with him or anything like that. He had tears in his eyes but was understanding. He said he told my mother about her and cut my ex-girlfriend off from the family entirely. I asked him why there was still contact, as many of you questioned, and he said that she apparently felt too guilty to really let us go. I'm not too inclined to believe it, as were many of you, but it's closure enough for me. Apparently, my mother didn't take the news too well and tried to get my phone number, but my father didn't give in. I'm not sure what I could really trust, given that I feel most of it is just a ploy to get me back into their lives, but after they threw me out onto the streets like a rabid dog, it just makes me sick. My son did end up asking who was at the door, but I told him that it was a colleague. I plan to tell both of them what happened to me in my past when they're older or going through tough times to let them know that I understand. We're all fine. It shook me up a bit, but I hope I have my father's word in him keeping my new life a secret. If anything else happens, I'll keep you updated, but I think the matter is resolved for now. Thank you all so much for the support and good words. If anybody you know has gone through the things I have, be there for them. You cannot throw them to the streets. Always stay alongside them and make sure they're happy, even if they have to move across the planet to be so." A couple of months after the first update, OP gave us another one. This is my first time posting to this community, so I'll give some backstory. I grew up in a perfectly normal middle-class family. They raised me well and I was living a good life. Then I got a girlfriend and at the start, she was amazing. We had many of the same hobbies and got along well. Then I discovered she was cheating on me and before I could confront her, she threatened to tell everybody I had her. I thought she was bluffing, but she actually did it, and my family disowned me. I was released from custody due to lack of evidence, but I wasn't able to be tried and acquitted. Therefore, my parents thought I was a who had gotten away with it. I decided I would start a clean slate. I stayed with my best friend for a while before getting copies of all my major information and running away. I got a degree in teaching and moved to another country where I met my wife and had my twin daughter and son. I was living peacefully before my father found me, and it kicked off a chain of events that leads to this post. I recently had an incident with my family involving them breaking a promise. It angered me incredibly, and after a lot of thought, I decided I would face them directly. I flew back to my home country and met with everybody involved. My mom, dad, brother, and even the girl who accused me. I was nervous, of course, but I was shocked when I realized I didn't really see them as family. I recognized them, of course, but I didn't see them the way I see my wife, kids, and in-laws. My mother started by breaking into tears and trying to apologize. I just felt disgusted by it. My father comforted my mother, and my brother was the one who kept his composure and initiated conversation. He asked me how I was doing, and I responded by telling him to cut any small talk and that this meeting was on my terms. I told all of them that I was not looking for reconciliation and I simply wanted closure. I made sure to tell them that I would call the police should they attempt to chase me. I asked my parents why they were so quick to abandon me, even though the police said there was no proof. They said that they made a rash decision and seeing me in custody broke their hearts. I called them out on it since they didn't try to stick up for me or anything. So I then asked what some people on my original post had said about my father looking through my accuser's phone. He said that she came to him to ask him to clear off her phone of non-essential stuff, and that's when he saw the chat logs with her friends. My dad was always good with technology, so while it wasn't fulfilling, I accepted it. I then asked my brother why he never contacted me. He looked surprised and said that he did, but I just ignored him all that time. Turns out he was right. My brother had tried hundreds of times to contact me and give me money to get me off of rock bottom, but questioned why I never answered and assumed that I hated him because of what happened. Well, as it turns out, my mother had my contacts blocked on all of her phone plans as she paid for my brother's old phone plan. So I couldn't even receive help when I was completely lost. Then the cherry on top, my ex. I first asked her why she actually did it. She said that she was scared of what would happen and that she never stopped loving me even throughout it all. She said that every session of therapy made her feel even more guilty as she knew it was all fake. She then told me that she hadn't dated anyone since in hopes that I would come back and she could apologize, because I'm sorry would really reverse time and fix all of it apparently. Even that was bullshit because my father said that he found chat logs of 3 different partners she had when I was away. My ex broke down crying and tried to hold my hand. She had the audacity to ask for another chance. This just made me spiteful, and I pulled out my phone and began showing all of them hundreds of pictures of my 2 children's milestones and good times my family had together. Our visits to cities, their first day of school, both of them in my wife's and my arms. I told her that this was what she could have had if she wasn't so stupid, and my parents what they missed out on for not even hearing me out. I had a moment when I thought I had gone too far, but I realized that compared to what they did to me, I hadn't. My visit wasn't all miserable though, as I met up with my old best friend and his family. They were happy to see me, and I was still grateful for them taking me in when it felt like the whole world was against me. I plan to return to the country one day to show my kids where half of their culture comes from. I won't let them anywhere near my family though. As far as I'm concerned, my only family is my wife and her family and my kids. I'd say it went pretty well. Edit. As some of you asked, I have decided I would allow my brother to fly over and meet his nephew and niece. I completely forgot to mention this in the post. Apologies. I hesitated at first as my brother and I weren't really on great terms growing up, brotherly rivalry and all that. User Significant Jello said, I think your brother deserves some relationship with you. Under this comment, another user said, I agree. He really tried and did what he could. It was the mother who blocked him and neither he nor his brother knew. But it may be easier for OP to stay separated from his family. He knows his brother had his back and this counts for a lot. Depending on the country, the evil ex could be prosecuted for her lies leading to his wrongful arrest, etc. Lying and taking up police time and resources is an offense in many countries, and she has now admitted it in front of his family. A deleted user said, I'm so sorry you went through this. Your ex is despicable for putting you through this and your family really let you down, which is also pretty horrifying. And your ex is making it more difficult for real victims of SA to be believed. I am one of them and I wasn't believed at the hospital. This is infuriating to me. I'm so glad that you have a happy life with your wife and children. You deserve happiness. User Signal Historian said, please tell me you stay in touch with your brother, F your parents and ex, but your brother cared the whole time, tried his best, and simply wasn't able to reach out. I'm happy for you that you got the closure for yourself and that you stick to your boundaries. Under this comment, OP said, I did. I have decided to go low contact and let him meet my family. This next post was made in the Off My Chest subreddit by a user named Sad Dust. The post is titled, "I made a huge mistake trying to save my marriage. A few years ago, I developed a medical condition that caused me to gain a lot of weight. It's been awful for me. I hate the way I look, and I could tell he did too. He never said anything directly, but he stopped looking at me the same way. I noticed him looking at other women more. Instagram models, actresses, even random women in public. I don't blame him for losing attraction, but it hurt like hell watching him slowly pull away. I couldn't stand the thought of him resenting me for something I couldn't control. So a few months ago, I suggested an open relationship. I thought it might give him the chance to get what he needed physically without walking out on me. I still loved him and I was terrified of him leaving. I thought this could be a way to stay connected emotionally even if I couldn't give him what he wanted physically anymore. He agreed, and I immediately regretted it. He started seeing other women left and right. I later found out that some of them were escorts. Meanwhile, I've had little motivation to date because I don't feel attractive and I'm too exhausted from dealing with my illness. It's not like I wanted to see other people, I just didn't want to lose him. Now he's divorcing me. He said we're on different paths and he's happier without me. I feel like an idiot for even suggesting the open relationship in the first place. I thought it would save our marriage, but all it did was give him an excuse to leave. User Gratuitous Sadism said, "He sounds like he was on his way out regardless. Don't beat yourself up. You did what you thought was best and you tried your hardest to make it work. Your life will only get better for letting go of what no longer serves you." User Chocolate X said, "I read somewhere that a large percentage of women's health issues are due to being in a lousy relationship. Depression, autoimmune diseases, gastric problems, mental health issues, most subsided or lessened after breakup or divorce." User The Navigating Gal said, "He was heading out the door regardless. I wouldn't spend too much time over the trash taking itself out. Marriage is for better or worse, which he clearly didn't mean in the vows. You gained weight for a medical condition that was out of your control. So many men would be honored to be there and support you, yet unfortunately, this time you ended up with a loser. Any man who leaves his wife based on her physical appearance changing is a loser. You give him the divorce he's wanting, you take care of yourself, and a good man will find you. He did you a big favor, girl." User OK, Lingonberry said, "It takes two to save a marriage. Your weight didn't kill it. Lack of communication and effort killed it. The moment he started looking at you differently was the time to fix it. If he loved you, your weight is something you could work through. He could have supported you through your illness and you could have tackled this as a team. Sounds like he just shut down and your insecurities ran rampant. The open marriage didn't destroy anything, it was already broken. I know it's hard, but don't let this garbage man destroy you anymore and steal an ounce of your sunshine. You deserve better." User Evocative said, "Good riddance, and make sure you get a good lawyer to fight for you since you are so tired due to your illness. Let them take on the burden of dealing with the trash. Also, I've heard, don't move out. They can use it as an excuse for the partner who stays to get the house." User Suspicious Dealer said, "You gaining weight doesn't give him a right to disrespect you. This is something he should have talked to you about, and you guys should have figured out something like going to the gym together. I really also wish that people would realize open relationships will be the death of 99% of relationships. Don't be so desperate as to give the fuckhead a free pass to cheat. You're better off without him. He's not a good person, and if you don't like the way you look, then change it." This final post was made in the Nuclear Revenge subreddit by a user named Sister Midnight. The post is titled, "Hell has no fury like two women scorned. Say goodbye to all your stuff." 15 years ago, I had a boyfriend that I'd been with for 6 years. He moved to another city for work, while I finished my studies and then I would move there too. He was apartment hunting, subleasing in the meantime. He came home almost every weekend and during Christmas and New Year's. He found an apartment in January and invited me up to show it, and I prepared to move up, looking for a job, looking for new furniture, etc. Late February, I told him it's time to terminate the lease on the apartment in our hometown, when he suddenly broke up with me. I was shocked and very sad. He collected some clothes and his very expensive PC, which he'd built from scratch. It was his baby. 2 weeks later, he updated his profile pic on FB to him and another woman kissing. Obviously, they hadn't been dating 2 weeks. I called him and called him out on it, and he admitted to having met her 2 months ago. He was at the airport to travel abroad with his buddy for the weekend, so we didn't talk long. That same evening, I decided to tell the new GF. I managed to find her on FB and wrote her. She didn't believe me at first, of course, but I sent her texts and pics and I described their apartment in detail. When I sent her a pic he'd sent me with their bedroom clearly in the background, she said, "Okay, enough, I believe you." She told me they'd been dating for 8 months, not 2. She'd been in Africa for 2 months, in December and January, which would explain why he was able to be with me for 2 weeks over the holidays, and why he could invite me to see the apartment. We wrote a lot. He'd sent us the exact same Valentine's Day text. He'd bought us the exact same Christmas present, etc. You get the picture. After comparing notes, it was time for revenge. She cut up all of his clothes and left them in a pile on the floor. I told her about the PC and advised her to tear that to pieces. She hacked it with screwdrivers and hammers, and every piece was beyond saving. When he came home on Sunday, she tossed him out with nowhere to go, but not before showing him all of his possessions obliterated. Edit, I need to clarify that legally, it was my PC. I'd won money on one of those scratch lottery tickets, but since we were living together, I kind of thought of it as ours. Huge mistake. User, you're just spare parts said, I get that being cheated on sucks. I was cheated on by my ex-wife. However much it sucks and hurts, it's still no reason to destroy their belongings. That's petty and childish and more than likely illegal. Just break up with them, kick them out, and get on with your life. I was so angry at my ex-wife after I found out and realized I had been lied to, manipulated, gaslighted, and betrayed for years because of her actions and decisions, but I never would have imagined destroying her things or trying to get someone else to destroy something she really cared about. This is essentially the same as those videos you see of crazy people destroying their partner's car or something. When I look at those videos, I'm like, okay, I was on their side. They had every right to be mad at them and leave them, but as soon as they started doing that shit, I lost all respect for them. And their relationship was probably a shit show regardless of cheating. I'm not saying it's exactly the same for you, and no one deserves to be cheated on, but being childish after the fact isn't going to help anything, especially you. Under this comment, OP said, "We were both young women, so I can certainly buy that it was childish. Still feels good though."